Darkness had enveloped the old cemetery. In the dim light of the night, the moon was hidden among the clouds, creating shadows that fell like ghosts on the decadents. The cold, sharp wind was rustling the leaves of the old plane trees. Tonight, Jack and his friends were here to discover the town's creepiest secret, the secret in the old cemetery. The cemetery was home to terrible stories that had been told for centuries. According to the rumor, every midnight, a spirit got up from its grave and wandered around as if looking for lost loved ones. Jack had always found these stories ridiculous, until tonight. When they gathered up their courage with their friends and went deeper into the cemetery, a strange fog greeted them. The fog was engulfing them more and more at every step, surrounding them. Jack turned and looked when he felt someone breathing behind him, but there was no one. "It's just a cold, intense air." Then the clock struck midnight. Suddenly, a whisper was heard coming from a distance. The sound, which at first sounded like a slight murmur, became more and more distinct and frightening. Jack and his friends remained motionless in horror. The whisper had changed to a woman's voice. "He's sad and lonely, but he's also so angry." Through the fog, a pale light appeared. The light was moving slowly towards them. Jack, his heart in his mouth, when he looked towards the light, he saw a female silhouette. His eyes were empty, his hand was in the air, as if he was looking for someone. Jack and his friends were frozen with fear. The woman, as soon as she took another step, suddenly disappeared. Only a cold wind and a heavy silence remained behind. Jack, holding his breath, looked around. Among the decadents, there were now only the terrified faces of his own friends. That night, Jack and his friends saw the secret of the old cemetery. And this secret would stay with them. Now they knew that those terrible stories were true. The truth can sometimes be more terrible than it is told, and the secret in the old cemetery was the most frightening proof of this fact. As he left the cemetery, there were still unanswered questions in Jack's mind. Who was this mysterious woman? Why did he get up from his grave every night and walk around this cemetery? And most importantly, why had he lured them there? Determined to look for answers to these questions, Jack went to the town library the next day. Here, he started researching the history of the town. Among the old newspaper clippings, dusty books, and decrepit documents written about the town, he hoped to find a clue. During his research, he came across the story of a woman who lived in the town a century ago and tragically died young. This woman was someone who lived outside the town, on the edge of the forest, loved and respected by everyone. However, one night, after the man she loved married another woman, she was said to have committed suicide. Jack thought that this story might be connected to the mysterious woman in the cemetery. Perhaps the soul of this woman got up from her grave every night and wandered around the cemetery in search of the man she loved. This theory began to take place more and more in Jack's mind. However, this was just a theory, and Jack was determined to find out the truth. That night, he returned to the cemetery again, this time alone. The same fog, the same cold air and the same mysterious sounds greeted him. And just at midnight, the same mysterious woman appeared again. This time, Jack overcame his fear and approached the woman. "Who are you?" he asked in a shaky voice. The woman fixed her eyes on Jack and said with a sad expression, "Haven't they forgotten me?" he whispered. While Jack was trying to decipher the meaning of these words, the woman disappeared into the fog again. Jack decided to decamp there, among the tombstones, to pursue the story of this mysterious woman. Every night, every midnight, he would return to the cemetery and continue to investigate until he solved this secret. The secret in the old cemetery was not just a legend, it was a true story. And Jack was determined to find out the end of this story. This was just the beginning. The truth is not always what it seems, and sometimes the darkest secrets are hidden in the most unexpected places. Jack's research took days. During the long hours he spent in the library, he gathered more information about the woman's life. Her name was Eliza, and she was known as the prettiest girl in the town. However, the betrayal of the man she loved had deeply wounded her and eventually led her to this tragic end. As Jack became immersed in Eliza's story, he began to form a bond with her. Every night when he returned to the cemetery, he thought he felt her spirit. It was as if Eliza was trying to communicate with him. One night, when Jack went to the cemetery, that mysterious light appeared out of the fog again. This time, Jack wasn't scared. He walked slowly towards the light and reached the silhouette of Eliza. "Can you hear me?" he whispered. The woman looked at him and said, "Yes," with her eyes full of tears. From this moment, a communication began decoupling between Jack and Eliza. Eliza began to tell him her story. Betrayal, pain and suicide of the man she loved. Everything. As Jack listened to this story, after Eliza told her story, Jack felt his devotion to her. The woman's sad voice echoed on the night wind. Compassion shone in Jack's eyes as Eliza expressed her years of loneliness and pain. The story of this soul was not only the tragedy of a lost love, but also a forgotten part of the town. Eliza told Jack the name of the man she loved and the location of his grave. The next day, Jack returns to the cemetery to find the grave of the man Eliza loved. When he found the tombstone, he saw a faded name engraved on it years ago. This was the missing part of Eliza's story. Jack waited into the night to tell Eliza of this discovery. When night came, Jack met Eliza's spirit again. She told him that she had found the grave of the man she loved and that he was still remembered. When Eliza heard this news, she seemed to have found peace for the first time in years. His story was now complete. After this incident, Jack reduced the nights he spent at the cemetery. However, he never lost his connection with Eliza's soul. He was like a caretaker who was protecting the forgotten history of the town now. Over the years, Jack continued to live in the town and kept Eliza's memory alive by telling her story to new generations. The secret in the old cemetery was no longer a legend, but a true story woven into the mysterious history of the town. One night, when Jack was getting old and his time was coming to an end, he breathed his last in the silence of the cemetery. However, the townspeople believed that the spirits of Jack and Eliza wandered together in the cemetery. Their story has become immortalized decadently among the legends of the town. The story of Midnight Nightmare, the secret in the old cemetery, was not only a dark and eerie fairy tale, but also a story of lost loves, forgotten memories, and bonds beyond time. Jack and Eliza would live decently in the town's memory, amid the midnight mists, forever. This story remained hidden every midnight, in whispers that echoed in the cemetery, in the dark corners of the town, and in the rustle of the wind. And so, the secret in the old cemetery, maintaining its mystery for many years, continued to envelop future generations with its own magic. This story was a whisper from beyond time. It was the eternal echo of a forgotten love, a lost soul and a truth hidden in the darkness.